freedom is what you experience when you are to me, it was a prison of fear and people pleasing that I was living in. And as soon as I figured out that I actually had the key in my back pocket, that I could step out of this prison, I could open that door, that I was choosing to stay there for whatever the reasons are, but I was choosing to stay there because unlocking that door and walking out is scary. There's some faith, that there's courage, there's bravery that you have to embrace to actually do something different than what your patterns of behavior have been.
Well, I'm super excited for today because the individual that I have coming to the interview today has written a book that I think everyone should read. So welcome to the show, Janice Burkt. She is an author, an inspirational speaker, and has appeared on TEDx. And I have to say, your TEDx opening was pretty spectacular. We'll talk about that in a bit. And it's her mission to inspire others to step into their own authentic power. And she has a new book out, and it's called Kicking the People-Pleasing Habit. So welcome, Janice.
Thank you so much. I am thrilled to be here with you, and I just love the name of your podcast.
Oh, thank you.
It's amazing.
Yes, I think that must mean that you're probably a rule breaker if you love the name of the podcast.
Probably, maybe just a little bit.
Just a little bit, absolutely. So let's go ahead and jump in and tell me like how you got to where you are and in writing this book that, quite frankly, I think is a topic that there's so many of us, I think, that suffer from that.
Yes, it has been the craziest journey, and it's not anything that I had planned or even thought about doing as far as the book goes. But I find that as we experience things in life, that our mess really does or can become our message. And I feel like that's exactly what happened with me with the people pleasing component of my life. And so basically just taking my own life experiences of people pleasing, of being, like I said in the TEDx speech, addicted, because it really, for me, it was an addiction. It was a compulsive behavior that I did throughout my life to feel loved and to feel validated and accepted and to feel good enough ultimately. So being really good at it, I guess, like a really good people pleaser, when you then find freedom from that prison, and it's like this with anything in life, then you want to shout it from the mountaintops and you want to be like, hey, if you also have felt not good enough, if you have struggled with insecurity and wanting to just curl up into a ball and not be seen, like, I see you and there is hope.
Yeah, I have to say, first off, with your TEDx that you did, everyone should watch that as well too. That had to have been one of the most powerful openings I've seen in a really long time for a TEDx. It kind of made me like go, what? with your opening, because it's such almost like when you see you, the way that you look, it's almost when you open like that, it's almost a shock.
Yeah. But it's true. It's my truth. And so to be able to share authentically what goes on inside, like in between my two ears, instead of wearing the masks that I was so good at wearing. And, I'm going to be this for you, and I'll be this person for you, and I'll be a chameleon and fit into whatever mold I need to fit into so that you will like me and approve of me and pat me on the back and tell me that I'm okay. And when I finally spoke my truth and allowed myself to be seen, which, by the way, is terrifying at the beginning. It's really scary, and you feel like you're going to drown or something, or die. There's this level of self protection that I had built around myself, thinking that I had to lie and manipulate, because honestly, that's what I was doing, even though I wasn't aware at the time that I was doing it. I actually was pretty, and I say this in the speech, self righteous about being such a kind and loving and giving person. But I didn't have the awareness yet to go, wait a minute, why am I actually doing those things? Why am I showing up that way? And then why am I doing it at the expense of my own well being and my own happiness?
Just in the entrepreneur world, right? We want to please everyone. And in the business world too, whether you work for someone or you don't, or you work for yourself, it's always about what can you do to please everyone. So how, what are the steps to that? And like, what do you get out of that after, like, when you're done with that? Like, when you figured out the steps and you're no longer a people pleaser?
Well, I'll answer that first.
I know
Is
that was a long, like, multi-part question, wasn't it?
No, but I love all of that. So I would say freedom is what you experience when you are no it to me it was a prison of fear and people pleasing that I was living in. And as soon as I figured out that I actually had the key in my back pocket, that I could step out of this prison, I could open that door, that I was choosing to stay there for whatever the reasons are, but I was choosing to stay there because unlocking that door and walking out is scary. There's some faith, that there's courage, there's bravery that you have to embrace to actually do something different than what your patterns of behavior have been. But freedom, authenticity, to be yourself, to truly show up in this world as the person that you are meant to be, because no one else has your exact gifts and talents and life history and all of the things. So if we don't show up, we don't show up. Nobody else shows up for us. And so that's what I have found, is that liberation and true love, actually. Whereas when I would do these things to please other people, I was giving from a place of lack and actual need. I needed something. Whereas when I don't have that need, like I don't need you to validate me or tell me that I'm okay, then when I give something to you, it can be from a pure place, from a truly loving place. So those are all the benefits, and there's a lot more. But I would say the very first step, like I mentioned before, to changing anything is developing awareness. And it's interesting because when I did the TEDx speech, I was doing some research, and there's a woman named Tasha Eurich, and she's an organizational psychologist, and she talks about awareness and how most people believe that they're self-aware, but in all reality, only about 10 to 15% of the people that she studied were actually self-aware.
Wow.
So if you think about that, that's like 90% of us walking around kind of not seeing ourselves clearly. We have these little blind spots that we're not even aware. Okay, why am I actually doing that? So
Is that because of like baggage, or why do you think that is? Or did she give an explanation in her book?
I don't know what she said, but I feel like things in our past, our patterns of behavior, our subconscious, we're we operate so much from this layer that is below our conscious mind. And it's things like, if you think about things that happened to us when we were infants, even children that we don't even have that conscious recollection of, but they happened and they're somewhere deep within us. So we're carrying all this stuff. And that's interesting that you bring that up, because that's the actual second step in the book that I wrote. The first one is to choose awareness. The second step is to identify and heal emotional wounds, because it's those wounds that can hold us back a lot of times in life. Our inner wounded child that still exists within us, and we're actually making decisions and living our life a lot of times based on that wounded child that maybe sometimes we're not even aware of. So that's the second step, is to really identify and then heal those emotional wounds.
Wow. Okay. Well, it's interesting. One of the things you kept on talking about, you mentioned authenticity, right? And I feel that a lot of times when people are inauthentic, it's not necessarily easy, but you can see it. You can see that people are inauthentic, right? And if you are an entrepreneur and you are trying to sell something, people will always know if you're not being authentic 100% of the time. And it could be a lot of different things, right? It could be based off of some trauma that you have, or you're trying to hide something, or maybe you think that you need to be, present in a certain way or be in a certain way, or, something like that. And one of the things I always say is, whatever it is that you have, your mess, exactly. You and I have that same saying, whatever your mess is, that is something that should be so empowering, because people will see you as who you are, authentically you, and that is your strength, because you're the only one that has that, whether it's a physical thing, or it's a mental thing that something that you have. You're the only one that has that. And if you can put it out there and be really authentic, I think it makes, in the business world at least, it makes such a big difference. But also, I'm sure in relationships and other areas as well too, it's probably the same.
Well, and I love doing business with people who are authentic. You're right. I think we're immediately drawn towards someone who is standing in their own truth and their authentic power. There's something so beautiful about that it just naturally has me gravitate toward those people. And even people that they're different than me in their authenticity, but it doesn't matter, because I'm like, that I know who that person is. I know who they are in business, in their personal life. They're showing up the same, and to me that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, for me personally, it's a turnoff if
Yeah.
somebody's inauthentic. It's like whether, I mean, like in sales, if somebody is inauthentic, or like just even like simple things. Like, for example, one time not one time, this happened actually more than once. Like, I want to go buy a car. I know exactly what I want. And the salesperson comes and they're so inauthentic in what they're doing. And I've said to my husband before, I'm like, all I want is somebody to sell me this car. I don't want all this other stuff. But I think it's because I can just almost smell the I can't even say it, inauthenticity. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, what other steps are there so that our listeners will know, hey, if I do these steps or I grab this book, what can I get out of it?
Yes, definitely. Actually, a friend of mine made me this super cute little bookmark, and she put
Oh,
the 6 steps on it. Isn't that the coolest?
that is
So
super cute.
I know. So it's my
You
little
should
cheat
like
sheet.
somehow get that printed and put it in like your book, as a bookmark. That'd be kind of cool.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It's awesome that she was very sweet about it. So So step one, choose awareness. Step two is the identify and heal emotional wounds. Step three is to develop and cultivate self-love. Step four is to establish boundaries, which is super, super hard for people pleasers, but one of the most empowering things that we will ever do. Step five is the chapter's called Decide and Do. So it's like committing and taking action. So I'm deciding that I want to step away from people pleasing and I want to step into this more empowered, authentic version of myself. And I talk a lot there about the balance between effort and ease. And it's a very interesting journey in life just to walk that tightrope of action, because there is something to be said for taking action and really going for it, and then that surrender piece, that piece where we're meditating or we're sitting in stillness, we're connecting to our true selves or to the divine, or just that real centered place. And there's a nice little balance that I think is kind of the journey of life, is to walk that balance of effort and ease. And then the last step is to envision and then step into the highest version of yourself.
Wow.
Just not a tall order or anything, just a
No,
little
not at
something.
all. What step do you, because I'm thinking again as an entrepreneur or as a business person where it's difficult, right? Because you're really a people pleaser. What do you think is probably out of all of those steps, what do you think is the step that would empower them the most to really stop being a people pleaser?
That's hard to pick one, but I would say it's a tie between healing the emotional wounds and developing self love. Because truly, when we love and value and appreciate ourselves at this core level, you have no need for validation or for somebody to pat you on the back and tell you that you're okay. You already have that solid sense of self that no matter what someone says to you, good or bad, it's almost like you can hear it, but you don't attach to it. You don't cling on to it. Like, I have to then believe that because that person said that about me. So that makes it my truth. No, that's not my truth. That might be their truth based on their experiences and their perspective, but it doesn't have to be mine. And so once you develop that solid love for yourself, respect, value, admiration, you treat yourself like you're your best friend, like you're just this amazing person. And by the way, that also means following through on commitments that you make to yourself for your own betterment. Like, oh, I want to, do that exercise class, or I want to step out and maybe meditate a little more, or whatever it is, and following through on those commitments, you start to really develop this like appreciation for yourself for these accomplishments that you kind of have realized. And that has been my process. It's been about 10 years since my divorce where I just baby steps started doing the things that scared me the most to do. But each time I did something that I was terrified to do and I actually walked through it, I developed a little more love for myself and sense of confidence, and like, hey, I can show up, I can do these things. I don't need somebody else. And I also don't need to blame other people, because I was really good about the victim mentality. Like, oh, look at what this person did to me and my dad and my ex. And finally I'm like, wait a minute.
Do you think, I mean, that's also, I mean, that maybe might cause the whole people pleasing or the related, I would say,
Oh,
some
yes.
something in your life that caused you to feel in a certain way?
Yes. And it's usually the relationships that we had with our parents or guardians and the type of love that we received from them, or maybe lack of love, or even, they loved us a lot. They just didn't quite know how to show it in a way that we would be able to receive it. So, for instance, for me, as far as identifying and healing emotional wounds, I remember, and I'm a very sensitive person. So sometimes that also, two people could have the exact same experience and not feel as impacted in the same way. But I'm very sensitive. And I think I was five or six, and my parents left on a trip. I think it was a 3 week trip or maybe a month trip. And they took my brother. So it's just me and my brother and my parents. Well, they all leave for 3 weeks, and they leave me with my grandma, who's an amazing woman, but she had like 7 foster kids at the time. So I was just one of many kids running around. And I have a pretty bad memory, but I specifically remember pacing around my grandma's room crying, just like tears streaming down my face, writing them these letters, please come back, I'll be good, like thinking I had done something that caused them to leave me. And this is, as a young child, as a 5-year-old girl. So, yes, it definitely stems back to our past and the relationship that we had with those people that are important to us, those people that raised us.
That's really interesting, that you say how something's, even so far back, right? That can affect you now. So, I think about, again, going back into like the working world, either with your boss or your customers. Let's just say you're an entrepreneur and you have customers. They start seeing a change in you, and they either like it or they don't like it. And then I think for an entrepreneur or even just a business person that works for a company, there comes that fear, right? It'll come back, probably roaring back. Like, if I'm not a people pleaser, I'm going to lose my business, or I'm going to, my boss is not going to like me, or my customers aren't going to like me. I mean, what do you say to that? Like, how can you stay strong in it? Um, you talked about commitment, which I really like, but I mean, how do you stay strong in that?
I think it really comes down to knowing yourself, because making people happy is not a bad thing. That's not what I'm trying to say at all. I actually love making people happy, and I love showing up and going above and beyond and wowing people in business and doing things like that. I think it's really important to see, like, why exactly you're doing something, and if you're pleasing at the expense of your own sanity, of your own physical, emotional, spiritual well-being. That's where you have to say, wait a minute, is this the life that I truly want to live? This life of burnout? And I'm stressed all the time because I'm trying to make this person happy, and oh, they're never happy. And, I'm going above and beyond and nothing's really working. So it's really being able to assess that type of a situation and go, okay, what exactly is going on here? Am I working? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's almost like having the power of no. right?
Mm,
Standing up for yourself
yes.
and having that power to say no, whether it's, something else that you need to do, or just, again, things that would be at your own expense. Because eventually, I think what happens if you keep on um, being a people pleaser and you're stressed all the time and unhappy and maybe feeling trapped, right? Because I think that fear of not pleasing people can be a prison, right? That eventually it's going to take a toll on you. Either you hate what you do, or your health suffers, or just something is going to blow up somewhere in your life.
Yes. Or uh, you're resentful. That was a big thing with me.
Ah, that's it. That's an interesting point.
Yes, you start building up like this resentment, but you're the one actually kind of creating it because you're going along and you're doing the things and you're not speaking your truth and you're not setting boundaries and you're not saying no. So the other person may not even know that you feel this way, but you're like, this person over here, and but it's never communicated. So that's a huge thing, is learning to communicate your truth and doing it in an assertive, not aggressive, but just assertive, loving way. There is a way to do that. And sometimes I feel like people think they either have to be a total, like, bitch, or something, and
Right?
just go off on the person because I'm so mad now, or they just don't say anything at all.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. Well, let me ask you this question. Are is there a way, because I'm sure a lot of people that are listening are going, "Yep, I'm probably a people pleaser, but I'm not sure." Is there a way, do you have any questions like to ask, like, you know, on how you feel to identify whether you are truly a people pleaser or not?
Totally. So some of them would be, do you have a hard time saying no? Specifically when you really don't want to do something, but you feel obligated, or you feel like you'll be looked down on if you don't concede. So do you have a hard time saying no and setting boundaries? Is a really good one. Um, do you struggle with feelings of insecurity, not being good enough, low self confidence? That's a big one for me. And it was one of those ones that was really hard to admit, because no one wants to say, I'm an insecure and my jealous, because I struggle with jealousy. It's hard to kind of see those things in yourself, but I think that would be a really good one. Like, do I struggle with those not good enough feelings and trying to get validation from external sources outside of myself? Are you constantly worried about what other people are thinking about you? Do you feel like you wear a lot of masks and you show up differently for different people, and you feel like you're trying to read the situation always? What do they want from me? How should I react? Do I smile? Do I laugh? Another really good one is, are you always second guessing yourself in communicating, like even sending a simple text sometimes, where you're like rewriting it and rewriting it, and then you don't even send it because you're so scared of how somebody else might take it?
Wow. I would never have thought of that one, but that's a really good one. Wow. Really interesting topic. So let me ask you another question, something we kind of talked a little bit about early on. Um, so what makes you a rule breaker?
Oh, well, I would say I definitely was not a rule breaker early on when I was people pleasing, because I was trying to stay within the rules that were set by me, by everybody. Um, but now I would say I'm a rule breaker because I don't conform in that way. I do show up as my true, authentic self. And a good example of that is inspirational speaking. I love encouraging people and sharing, stories of hope and inspiration. And a lot of times, but I get really nervous and I have these like shaking problems when I'm standing speaking, and all of this kind of stuff starts happening. Um, and
I can
I
help you
just,
with that.
what's that?
I said I can help you with that.
Oh my gosh, yes, please. Because it's the most random thing. Sometimes I have no problems with it all at all. And other times it really is like the fear inside of me is being manifest
Yeah.
for everyone to see. And so that's part of my process, is really working on being centered. But anyway, with the inspirational speaking, I would start tearing up or crying. And even on this podcast, I think a couple times I get choked up, or I have kind of that. Uh,
I think it's because you're speaking from your heart. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think on your TEDx, there was a portion of it that you were a little emotional, and it just brought the point, just it zoned in so much so that I truly think, I mean, that's something for you that is your strength. I know that that may sound strange, but when you can bear your heart to other people, that is truly a strength. So I wouldn't worry about that so much.
Well, and that was what I was going to say, is I used to apologize for that. And I used to feel bad that here I was kind of breaking down. And then part of like the rule breaker in me felt like, even though not everybody cries or does that because it's not appropriate in speeches, or, with Toastmasters or whatever, you're not supposed to do certain things. I realized that is me. And if I didn't do it, I would be people pleasing and
Right?
hiding a part of me that just is. And so now I don't apologize for it. I allow myself just to be seen, and it is truly liberating, and yeah, just allows me to show up.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, I think it's truly your strength. And, when we are trying to do, almost be like a good soldier, and everybody kind of walks the same and wears the same thing and does the same thing, you're not being authentic, right? Plus, people will look in that and it'll be boring, also, non
Right.
engaging as well. But, being a rule breaker is all about not doing what everybody else does. That doesn't mean breaking the law, it doesn't mean doing, bad things. It means thinking outside the box and not settling for that status quo, not settling for being a people pleaser, right? Not settling for, doing things the way that Toastmaster says to do it. I'm not saying that they're not good. I'm just saying everybody can do things in their own voice, in their own authenticity, and, that kind of makes the world really interesting, right? Because
Yes.
we're all different. And I don't think anybody should hide it. Whatever it is, that the things that we say to ourselves, those are really, anything negative, because let's, whatever it might be, saying, oh, I'm whatever, I'm too thin, too fat, too whatever, the way that you are is your strength. And you just have to be able to figure out, how do I harness it, like a wild horse.
Yes. And as you walk in your strengths, the cool thing is that people around you will be inspired and motivated to walk in theirs. And that is a beautiful thing, this like ripple effect of energy and authenticity and love and all the goodness showing up. So as we each do our own part, we are affecting our communities and the world at large.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's all the what my a friend of mine says, the yummy stuff.
Yeah, yummy stuff.
Yummy stuff. So let me ask you, so where can people find your book?
So it's on Amazon currently. It's the paperback and the ebook, Kicking the People Pleasing Habit, a 6 step approach. And actually, so I am a voiceover artist also, and I've done other people's audiobooks and stuff. So I'm like, okay, I probably should work on my
It's
own
time.
audiobook. So soon there will be an audiobook once I get motivated to record it.
Oh, that's awesome. A lot of people, they can use that like while they're traveling or in the car or while they're working out, so that way not only are they getting the goodness of that, but then they're also doing something, while they're driving. Or obviously it takes effort, but I mean, it's not like you have to just focus only on that. You can listen to something at the same time that's going to be worth your while and help up level wherever you are.
Yes, I love that. Let's kill two birds with one stone. Let's be as productive as we can with the time that we have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So where can people find you if they want to get in touch with you?
So I am at janiceburt.com or SpanishJanice.com.
All right. All right. Well, that concludes my interview with this amazing person. So don't forget, take a look at her book, Kicking the People Pleasing Habit. And all that information will be in the show notes. And if you liked what you heard, please go ahead and give us a 5-star review. So, again, thank you, Janice. It's always great seeing you.
Thank you so much. This has been so much fun, and I love what you're doing. Keep it up.
All right. Thanks again.